If you're creating podcasts with AI, there's a key moment that makes or breaks an episode: finding fresh and factual information. That's where NotebookLM's Discover Sources and Jellypod's Web Search comes in. They're two very different ways of pulling in content that you didn't already know. To compare them, I picked the perfect test: a recap of yesterday's Warriors-Clippers game. It's very recent and full of hard data. This is a feature showdown, but it also shows the bigger difference between how NotebookLM and Jellypod approach content creation. NotebookLM discovers lots of sources, but waits to tell you the story until the very end, sometimes leaving you to reshape it after it's already baked. Jellypod lets you guide the narrative as you go, shaping the story, tone, and structure from the very first moment. Now let's see how each one performs. All right, so in NotebookLM, let's go ahead and discover sources. Let's say Warriors, Clippers game. Okay, so here was the game. Lots of different things to pull in: YouTube videos, blog. It's hard to see exactly what each one's about, but I could click in, obviously, and add as many as I want. I'm going to go ahead and import all of them. But as you can see, I mean, all the data, from what I can tell, is from that game. It is fresh. It is from yesterday. So that's really exciting. All right, I've got my NBA Big Game Recaps podcast here in Jellypod. Click Create New Episode, do web search, type in Warriors and Clippers recent score. Let's take a look. Okay, awesome. So it's got the latest score here, sees the overtime victory, and begins to actually pull out interesting information about the game. Some key highlights about James Harden and about Steph Curry. Seems like those are the two top performers of the game. And as a result, okay, the Clippers move on, and the Warriors are left to face the 8th seeded Memphis Grizzlies. Awesome. And it's really cool to see the freshness, right? This game just happened, and all of this data is getting pulled in, and it's got the hard facts right. It's pulling me the most important numerical details about this thing right for me to peruse and make sure that I'm happy with it. And right now I am. One thing that I did want to note is, expected from Google, its ability to discover sources and find web pages on the internet is awesome. 10 things almost instantly. But I'm struggling to see what it's going to say about them until I'm listening to the episode. I get a little bit of a digest of what these 10 sources will be about, but it's very high level. Just there was a game that was played, but there was context about the Warriors' victory ahead of time, but it doesn't really start to tell me about the game in a way that I would want it to if I'm making a podcast about that game. So an interesting note here is, again, this distinction between discovery and distillation. It doesn't seem like Jellypod got me that many sources. It didn't get me 10 sources across the internet, but it did seem to distill it down to exactly what I cared about, which was this recent score and what happened in this game. I can quickly understand that this is what I want to pull into my podcast. All right, and then I go ahead and click Generate. And now I'll start to actually take all the sources and see what the story is all about. All right, and now let's give it a listen.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really zeroing in on one specific NBA game. It wrapped up the 2024-25 regular season. LA Clippers versus Golden State Warriors, back on Sunday, April 13th.
Yeah, and you gave us some great stuff to work with here. We've got like a pregame prediction, the injury reports, which are always key, a whole load of historical head-to-head data, and then the fan reaction right after the game from Reddit.
Exactly. So our goal here is basically to put all these pieces together. We want to give everyone a really clear understanding of, what people thought would happen, what actually happened, and maybe what it all means in the bigger picture.
For sure. It's a fascinating little snapshot, isn't it? How predictions stack up against reality. So we've got dimers.com with an AI prediction for that Sunday game, then the AP injury report for the same day, stathead.com for all the historical matchups, regular season and playoffs.
Right.
And then, the Reddit postgame thread, which gives you that raw, unfiltered fan perspective.
Okay, perfect. So let's jump right in.
Awesome. I mean, it lays it out cleanly. It pulled in all the sources. Clearly, it has sources from before, during, and after the game. So that is awesome. I just do wish that there was a little bit more control to, get to the product or to the message that I want to, which is at the end of the day, I want to know about the score and what happened in the game itself. All right, let's go ahead and make this into an episode. All right, cool. So I immediately get a sense for the kind of episode it'll be, and I can start to move things around, edit chapters, and really, I really enjoy this. I like how it's focused around the Clippers winning, the game behind the game, Harden versus Curry, and then lastly, the implications. What's the impact here? And that is who moves on and what happens next. All right, let's see the script. All right, now that we've got the script, we can confirm that it's all good, but I'm going to go ahead and just say generate audio. All right, generated in just a few seconds. Let's go ahead and give it a listen.
All right, let's dive straight into this Clippers-Warriors overtime thriller. Man, what a game. The Clippers locking down the 5th seed in the West with a nail-biting 124-119 victory. It doesn't get much better than that.
You're right, Jordan. James Harden pulled off an absolute masterclass out there. 12 points in overtime alone? That's the kind of leadership you want to see in clutch moments.
Exactly. And it wasn't just Harden. Ivica Zubac was a force down low, 22 points and 17 rebounds. He practically owned the paint in OT.
Yeah, Zubac really made his presence felt, especially on those defensive boards. You take away even half of those rebounds, and the whole dynamic changes. It's these unsung efforts that make the difference in close games.
And there's the version in Jellypod. What's cool is I made 2 hosts before that video, one from Boston and one from Chicago, 2 big basketball towns, because I really wanted this podcast to come to life. But nonetheless, you can see that they get right into it. They discuss the meat about it. It's an entirely different ball game, so to speak. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Really, when it comes down to fresh and factual information, both Discover Sources and Web Search do a fantastic job. Really, where things turn stylistic is after that. It's up to you. Would you prefer to have the information distilled or have the information just purely discovered and then distilled at a later time? It's kind of a trade-off for when the distillation happens. And then the workflow. You've got NotebookLM, does a lot of discovery up front, but then doesn't really tell you what's going to happen until the very end. And then you have Jellypod, this controlled experience where you're kind of guiding the creative process from the beginning to the end. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please subscribe or like if you enjoyed the video.